Two vascular surgeons walk into a bar and come out with a podcast. We are talking everything vascular and not. Welcome to the Life of Flow podcast.
The following podcast is not relating to my teachings and work at Del Cedar Medical Center and is for entertainment purposes only. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the
Life of Flow
podcast. And today we had a really fun episode. We had Stephanie Ganowski. Stephanie is a clinical sexologist and sex coach for men. Her mission is to help men improve their sex performance and communication problems with their partners and basically just have a more healthy, connected, and sexually satisfying life.
You know it could be bad to watch too much porn?
Of course.
That's not a common thing.
Jesus, where are you living, bro?
Don't name Jesus when we're talking about porn. Keep my man out of this conversation.
Okay.
All right, stick around. This one's a goodie.
All right, bye. Hello, everyone, and welcome, Steph. Thank you so much for being here this morning, early on a Saturday. We appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be doing this with you guys, and I would not want to be doing anything else on a Saturday morning. Honestly, I love my work. I love talking about this stuff.
Well, it's not every day that we get to chat with a clinical sexologist, and certainly not one that focuses on men's performance specifically, right? Would that be an appropriate description of where you focus your work?
Yeah, I work primarily, I would say 99% of my clients are heterosexual men.
And that's very interesting.
Yeah, how did this whole journey start for you? Like, were you a little girl and then saying, I want to be a clinical sexologist when I grow up?
I kind of was.
Like a different type of journey?
I was like,
Really?
when I was really young, I was probably like a teenager. I was in high school at the time.
Mhm.
And where I just like had this idea that a sex therapist would be the coolest job ever. And I always would think, oh, but I could never do that. Like, that's so embarrassing. Like that would be humiliating, but it would be so cool. And I just remember thinking that from like really young. And it was probably because there was so much sexual shame in my household growing up with a very religious mother, Catholic. We had to go to church every Sunday. We had to say the rosary all the time, like very, very strict. It was like, if you masturbated, you went to hell, that type of thing. So I was very curious as a kid. Like, I wanted to lean into that and figure out like, oh, like, what is this? What makes it so bad? I want to know more. I want to go into it. So that's probably what created that craving to learn more and find it so interesting when I started learning more. And then that took me through college, being a psychology major. Everyone's like, you're never going to use this. And I'm like, but I love people. And like, it turned into relationship coaching at some point and got certified in that, started coaching. A mentor of mine was like, you really should work with men because they need a lot of help. And no one's really there's not a lot of people directly working just with heterosexual men and like keeping that title and having pride in that title. And I was like, you're right. I haven't seen a lot of that, especially women. So I decide to work with just men. And I put out a post on Instagram that started going viral, and it was related to sex. And at this point, I was doing relationship communication coaching, not sex coaching. So this video is going viral. I start making a few others that have to do with sex. And then I'm getting floods and floods of DMs saying, hey, can you help me with my premature ejaculation? Can you help me with erectile dysfunction? And my wife never wants to have sex. What do I do? How do I tell her this? And I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. It's like my dream is coming true. Like the sex stuff is coming back.
Do you remember? Would you mind telling us what that video was about? I haven't seen it. So what was this first viral video? What were you talking about?
The first video was on Instagram, and it was a reel that was basically saying it was because it was a viral audio. It was when the audios were really going viral, and the message was, guys, you need to stop being so obsessed with your dick. I could say anything on here, right?
Yeah, you can say absolutely anything.
You can say penis, cock, dick. It's all good.
I was basically saying like, stop worrying so much about your dick and worry more about your tongue and like that type of, so it was a bit like controversial. It was a bit like it stood out. And I was listing, a couple of reasons why they need to be more, aware of the fact that like 85% of women need oral stimulation to reach an orgasm. So that post went off. And then I started making more posts like that. And then with all these DMs around sex, I was like, I need to learn how to respond to these questions. So I found out there was a sex school online, and I went through that for sexology. And then I changed my practice to be sex coach for men instead of relationship communication coaching.
So I can find that super dicey in the world of the internet, where you have a lot of trolls and a lot of weirdos. To go from an Instagram post with an open, handle to a legitimate business. I mean, I can't even fathom the amount of weirdos that probably also hit you up at that stage. How have you been able to remove that noise, and legitimize something that's obviously a very important need? I mean, I turn around, and I'm probably targeted because I'm in my mid-40s, but shit, I get all sorts of pills, all sorts of stuff. Like they're
the phone's listening to what you
hitting
say,
me.
right?
They're hitting me. Well, it's probably listening to my wife more than myself. But no, it really is
You have a
is.
potential client. So,
Yeah, let's talk
great.
after this.
I have no problem in saying
There's some ROI in this
I'm always
investment.
happy to learn and to go through therapy. But really, no, back to the point. How do you maneuver through legitimizing something that is so important but could be potentially, obscured by all the weirdness?
I mean, it's really interesting because I got this question so much when I was, just so much throughout my work is like, oh, you must have so many weirdos like coming after you and saying stuff. And I'm like, yeah, there is that, but you'd be very surprised how little the percentage is compared to the guys who are very serious about getting help and very respectful towards me because they need the help and because they're so appreciative that someone's out there wanting to actually help them.
And are these people that are like the majority of your client? I guess the question is, what is the need that you're feeling? Like, what is unsaid in men that they, do it quietly, send you a DM, it's like, hey, I need help with this. When you look at, is there a bell curve of most people, are here, this is what they need, this is what I help them with?
Yeah. I mean, well, the primary problems I help men solve have been sexual performance anxiety, erectile dysfunction, premature ejaculation, delayed ejaculation, and sex communication issues with their female partners. So most guys, have one of those issues when they come to me after viewing content and they're like, hey, like I heard your podcast and I'm going through this exact problem. Can you help me? And that's just how it starts. So I saw this post and I totally related to it. Can you help me? Can we set up a call?
Okay. So you have a coaching, you have a podcast, like what other resources have you then generated to get to people and to help?
Yeah, well, my podcast, What I Love About Sex, has almost 400 episodes. So I've been pretty consistent there. My YouTube has a few hundred videos. Instagram, I've been very active on most of the past, probably 4 out of the 5 years, out of the 6 years I've been doing this.
How about TikTok?
TikTok, I hopped on and then it didn't seem like the right audience for me at the time.
Interesting.
And that's just probably a me thing.
Is it an age thing? No, don't you think it's an age thing? Like you're probably in Instagram, the me guys are probably more there than you probably don't have a lot of guidance for a 20-year-old flushed with testosterone, but you may have a little bit more to say to the 40-year-olds. Could that be potentially why the platform matters?
It could be. I mean, because I also noticed when just by reading some of the comments on TikTok to understand what type of audience was there was a lot of victimhood, which was interesting. So my YouTube audience, I don't know if it's because I've warmed them up for so many years and they like know me and trust me more, but TikTok, it seemed to be, oh, well, yeah, easy for you to say, like, I'm fucked for life. This would never, like, I'll never get over this. And it was very much of that type of audience, which is interesting. So it wasn't even necessarily the age, but more of that like victimhood came forth with TikTok.
Is there an age of the men that approach you that it's kind of like, okay, this is my target audience?
Yeah, 35 to 50 is where I usually.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's because it's been long enough where they've been either suffering with an issue, like feeling very challenged with an issue since maybe their early 20s, mid 20s, and they're ready to solve it. Or they're in a relationship, just got married, about to get married, and like they're like, I want to fix this before I get married. Or they've been married and their wife is like, we're going to get divorced if this doesn't get fixed. Or he's thinking the same thing.
And is there a root cause of some of these problems? Is it very individualized? Is it, something that's a pattern that you see?
Yeah, I mean, 85%, more than 85% of these issues stem from they're psychologically induced. Most of these are not physical problems of the body. It's more feeling pressure in the relationship. It's feeling like, oh, if I'm not having sex, that means I'm not a man. So they're like, actually their identity is in danger. Their manlyhood is in danger. And it's coming from this place of comparison. They're feeling very alone. They're holding on to shame by themselves, never talking to anyone about this stuff. So it's building up within them. And then, they're not able to perform the way they want. And it's really just their mind is taking them in all these different places. And they're not just hearing someone say, hey, this is normal. This is okay. It's actually fixable too. And it could be fixed quickly. You don't have to wait years and years just because the problem has been happening for years and years. And it's so fascinating because I had a client who was struggling with delayed ejaculation for 17 years and had a wife, 4 kids. He said when it was time to have kids, it was a very, very stressful process for both of them because he always felt pressure because he never knew if he was going to be able to finish. Right. And she was like, you better be able to, so it was like that type of dynamic in their marriage, having 4 kids. And so then like he works with me, he comes to me in the first session and he's like, listen, I know this is going to take a really long time, but I'm ready to commit to a really long time of facing this challenge and like finding an answer. And I was like, that's interesting. Like, why do you say that? Like, why do you start there? Like this is going to take a really long time. And he was like so stressed out. And I told him, I was like, this does not have to take a really long time. It can, if you choose, if you move slowly with everything I tell you, if you don't do what I tell you, but like, are you ready and committed to actually fix this very, very fast and believe that it's possible to fix this easy and quickly? And he was like, I mean, I would love to believe that. And I'm like, okay, let's believe that. Let's start there. And we fixed his issue in 4 months. So his wife was emailing me like, what did you do? Like, what happened? And they were like having sex again. And he was like, wow, we're like having sex 3 to 4 times a week. Again, we haven't done that in 17 years. Like, so they're having sex, they're being more connected. He's finishing like half the time minimum. And it's just like, he was like, I can't even believe. And I'm like, well, you did believe, and that's why it happened. Sometimes it just takes some belief.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Do you feel that mostly you have success stories?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yes. In those in which one first. So on such success stories, average time on finding results and seeking the resolution.
What was the question?
So like, what's the average time that people work with you to solve most of their issues?
Yeah, the average time frame is 3 months.
Oh, okay.
That was very short.
Yeah, I would have. I honestly thought you were going to say at least 6 months.
Yeah.
Because it seems like there's a lot of work that has to be done, and actually that'd be super interesting. So what is, let's say that there's a Life of Flow audience member driving right now, and they're like, shit, this is right up my alley. I'm gonna have to get in touch with her and start working on this. So what's the process to get to work with you? And then let's talk about the phases of the work you do, maybe to understand how to unpack the whole journey for our listeners.
Yeah. So to work with me, it's just about me having an understanding of whether or not I am the best person for this man in front of me, and if he's the best client for me, for us to work together.
So walk me with what? Do you go on to a phone conversation to feel out if you are an appropriate match? And is it a Zoom conversation, I'm guessing? Do you want audio and video, or just audio, or just text at the beginning? How does that work?
Yeah, we do a Zoom conversation with audio and video. And yeah, like I said, this is an intro call to see, okay, tell me the issue you're struggling with. As he explains the issue, I get an idea of how nervous he is. You know, I can read body language looking at him, so I can tell, like, okay, is he really shut down right now? Like, do I see him, you know, like just very much in shame right now? You can tell. There's a lot of like looking away for a lot of guys that have a hard time speaking up and, you know, coming forth and owning their problem. So sometimes it's a matter of like, you know, calling attention to that and being like, hey, the more details you share, the better, you know, it's going to be for me to know whether or not I can really, really help you. And yeah, most of them come on and do give me all the details. And I'm like, you know, don't hold anything back. Just talk to me like I was a friend. Like, honestly, don't like, you know, try to stay guarded or not say certain words. So when they do that and they're open, and I have a sense that they trust me enough to believe in the process, then I would move forward with them. The things that prevent me from moving forward with them are, you know, language such as, yeah, well, I know it's probably, you know, it might help. And I don't know if I could do it, but I'm going to try, you know, like that type of attitude is where I'm like, hey, you got to be all in on this. Like if we do it, you know? So that's really important. And I find with my clients who come in and they're like, hey, I am looking for a solution. I know I'm challenged right now, but I trust that I can fix it. You know, I trust that you can help me. So let's go. I'm diving in. Like that's the best type of client. A guy who speaks like
And
that.
I'm guessing this is a cost-free exploratory call,
Yes.
right? Like you're just like any other coaching, you just get on and you start talking to each other. You know, one thing that I've learned about the whole coaching thing,
Mhm.
it's almost like dating.
You have to find the right
You
fit.
find the right person.
Yeah.
Like, you know, even if it's a business coach or a sex coach, whatever that is, you have to have that connection.
Yeah.
And if you don't feel it, it's the magic isn't there, right?
Because you have to work together, you know. So
yeah.
if you don't want to work together with this person, it's really, it could be difficult. And I've definitely been there. Yeah.
And what's the average time for, you know, how many sessions do you recommend a week or a month? How does that gets determined?
I recommend, like, my program is 6 sessions at this point in time. So it's 6 sessions followed by a year total of group sessions once per month. So that's how the sessions go. It's kind of like a 3-month intensive where there's 2 sessions a month and more access to me. And then it goes out, it turns into like finishing off a year of check-ins once a month.
Okay. And then what structure the journey? Do you have them read stuff? Are there maybe homework exercises that I have to train on? Like how holistic is that package when it comes to, and I'm sure there's personalized things, but maybe there are some stuff that is rather structured in the approach.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that makes my coaching different based on what guys tell me when they come in to work with me is like, I am very action oriented with my coaching. So what I do is I give them, we have the lesson of the day based on their goals and what they're looking to achieve, making sure that they're improving on each goal. And then there's always, okay, here are your actions to take. So they always know exactly what they're doing in the time frame that they're not speaking with me. And that would entail a masturbation exercise, journaling, conversation with their partner, them doing some some inner work on, what does sex really mean to me at this stage in life? Like doing some journaling on understanding how they're viewing sex at this point in time. Sometimes there's meditation with visualization and not necessarily masturbation. So there's different exercises depending on the guy and where he's at and what he needs.
Is there any kind of generalized advice you give to men that are like in long-standing partnerships? And I think this is pretty common. I remember like I went to a friend's wedding, really intimate friend's wedding, and at the end of the wedding night, they had been together for a very long time. We said, somebody made a comment. It's like, oh, like you guys go and do your thing. Like you go up, you be intimate with each other, have sex. And somebody said, well, they've been together for like 10 years. That just doesn't happen as much anymore. And I was like, oh man, that's interesting. I definitely felt that in long-term relationship, that the amount of sex decreases, at least in my experience. Is there,
Yep.
is that something you tackle? Like, and what is the root cause of that? And what things can you do to prevent that, to kind of maintain the passion and maintain the desire and maintain the connection that sex creates in a relationship? Because obviously, and obviously I'm a man, so I don't know what the women's perspective, but I immediately sense that after connecting and having sex, like the desire of your partner to please you, to like do things for you, they're so appreciative, of us giving that energy. So you're like, oh, definitely this has to be like an integral part of this relationship. It has to be constant. But there is that tendency to decrease in frequency. And then you're talking about 25 years of marriage, stuff like that. Then how do you deal with that and not just become roommates?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's really the lack of pursuing each other and lack of connection in ways that are intimate but not sexual. So what I always tell guys to do, who come to me and they're like, I feel like we aren't connecting sexually, like it's just not easy to have sex anymore. I'm like, okay, well, what made it easy in the beginning? And we go back to what that looked like. And usually there was a lot of non-sexual intimacy in the beginning, a lot of flirting, a lot of looking at each other and, just passing by in the kitchen even and just like smiling, like these little things, the little details of smacking her on the butt and, her just coming up and giving him a hug from behind and like kissing his neck. Those little things throughout the day, even a text like, hey, just want you to know I love you. You're beautiful. You're so sexy. Anything like that is what keeps that momentum going in your sex life. And if that is completely cut off and there's no sexual connection, then yeah, you may feel like you're best friends and you may be like, yeah, everything's good in my marriage except for sex, and that's because that non-sexual intimacy is not happening. So to simplify it for everyone, non-sexual intimacy, like what are you doing consistently to connect with your partner in a way where you're not just best friends, you're lovers, you love her, you want to have sex, but it's not always like, okay, it's time to connect sexually, let me like grab her and grope her, or like, oh, I guess I have to, a woman, like I guess I have to just like ask him if he wants head right now, like we jump from 0 to 100 and that's when it feels weird and it feels like this is not sustainable. And that's something I get a lot of, that comment of like, we have sex, but then I don't know when I'm going to get it again. Like I have no idea. Like a lot of guys will tell me that, like, yeah, I have it, but like, fuck, when is it going to happen again? And they sit in that anxiety and that like, okay, here we go. It's starting over. Now I have to like read her and do all this weird stuff, like, try to play this game again. But I'm like, it's not a game. It's just keep the foreplay going. Keep the non-sexual intimacy going always. As soon as sex ends, till the next time you have sex. And then keep it going. Like just because who wants to stop that? That's not just for the woman. It's also for the man in the relationship. We want to feel loved. We want to feel attractive to each other. So we have to put intention into doing those types of things. And and really look at it like I'm still pursuing my partner and I'm never going to stop. And that's a priority for me. Just like when we started dating our partner, we put a lot of energy into pursuing them. So just because we're married, doesn't mean that that stops. And if it does stop, that's when your sex relationship stops, typically.
Yeah. So one experience that I had recently, you live in Austin too, Steph, and a lot of interesting, weird things happen in Austin. So, my partner and I recently started exploring Tantra and the concept of Tantra and been getting into. And so we went to a retreat, which is really interesting and kind of weird, but in a cool way. And one of the things that came to light was the way in we show appreciation to each other, in the way and the needs that we satisfy as a partner for each other, and they're different in kind of the meta way. So, and you tell me about this, but this is kind of what I understood, that the way that I fill the needs of my partner Courtney is by providing a sense of like groundedness, security, and not security financially, but just security in that I provide a ground base for her where she knows she's not going to fall below that. And that is kind of my role in the relationship. And that is how I feel like kind of a generalized need. And then the way she provides and fills my needs is showing a deep appreciation for that. Deep appreciation for, as men, metaphysically, we go out into the world to slay the dragon, to battle, and then come home. And when we come home, we just want to feel appreciation for that, because we want to do that. We want to go out there. We want to kind of battle the world, and create our kingdom, whatever it is, all this metaphor. So that was like kind of enlightening to me. It's like, okay, and then a step, and I don't know if that's like that for everyone, but just establishing that in our relationship has been pretty cool. And it's like, okay, this is my role. This is how I feel your needs. This is your role. This is how you feel my needs. And then we stem from that. And that definitely translates into like intimacy.
I was going to say,
For
how
sure.
has that helped your sex life? Just naturally.
Yes, natural. Yeah, it's just like it feels so. Yeah, you establish a connection beforehand, like, and just by so I'm really partial to acts of service. So when I come home, if there's like, she gives me a glass of like lemon water, like ice cold lemon water, because I'm dehydrated all day, that just feels really good. And if I'm just like tired and I just like lay on the couch, just gives me a pillow, that just feels really supported. And there's like an immediate connection. And if something like in the house breaks or like needs to be repaired, I just like jump to it, solve the problem. Um she feels supported, and like I am that rock, like I solve problems. And I think that helps with the intimacy that leads later to having more sex.
Yeah, 100%. And the best part is that you went out of your way to understand that about each other and confirm that that's what works for you both, because couples don't do that. They just take a guess. Like, oh, I shouldn't say that. Not all couples, but most couples, I would say, take a guess and they're like, oh, well, I would want this, so let me do it for my partner. And that's not what you want to do. A lot of men feel like I should know. I should just know. I shouldn't have to ask her. That means I'm not a supportive man. That means I'm not her rock if I have to go ask. That means I'm unsure. That means I'm not stable. Like they make up this story about asking her a question, when really if they asked her and said, hey, how do you feel loved most by me? And actually get a very specific answer, like your partner was able to give you and you were able to give her. Now it's so clear what you guys love and appreciate, and so clear what makes you guys feel connected. So whenever you're feeling disconnected, the specific things to do for your relationship. Whereas other couples, they're like, oh, well, I did this thing once and it made her happy, but like this time it's not making her as happy, and like it's not connecting. And like they're in their head thinking like, shit, this worked last time. This is all a game, And then like men and women do this. Like they just say, oh, this is a game because I can't figure it out. And it's like, no, it feels like a game and chaotic because you're not choosing to figure it out in a structured way with security and maybe a little courage too. Sometimes it does take courage to just tell your partner, hey, like, we've been married for 10 years, but I want to know, like, what specifically makes you feel connected to me. I realize I never asked you this question, and I love you. I want to know this. Like, let's talk about it. Like, this is so, interesting and crazy that, like, we never talked about this, and kind of make it fun, make it an interesting, fun conversation for you both. So,
I think kids are super disruptive
Yeah.
for, at least this is my personal story is, we have a 2-year-old who's just wonderful and amazing, and we love him, and he's, brought so much joy and so much happiness. But with it also brought so much energy, and you are constantly running after them, and, running to take him to swimming lessons, and running to take him to soccer lessons, and running to give him the nap, and running to give that. Like, there's there's so much chaos that comes with the kiddos, that it it really diverts attention. There's a strain that comes into the relationship. I think it's unequivocal, um, and obviously you have to work towards it, and you have to, first step, at least I think, is to at least recognize and say, all right, we're not doing as much as we'd like to, but because we're so tired, and there's a little bit of a disconnect, and your priorities kind of fall in different places, um and then the thing is, when you come to the 2-year-old mark, and then you look at each other and you're like, should we have another one? Then it's like, oh, that's gonna be so much more work. But you wanna, and you realize that the good is much better than the bad. But is that a a usual issue that's been brought to your attention, that the moment that there's kids around and all that, then a lot of that flame kind of turns a little bit down?
Yeah.
And what's your thoughts on how to maneuver through that?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's the first thing is it's really important to make it clear that you and your partner are on the same team. And I know people look at this differently, where they're like, all right, my partner is my lover, not my teammate, but you're still on the same team. You're trying to win at life together, right? So whatever you want to call that, you want to have an energy in the way that you speak to your partner when things do get hard, which means it's this tone and energy of like, babe, we got this. Like, I know, like, man, this is crazy right now. Like, obviously calling out the elephant in the room, like, we're not having as much sex, but like, it's okay. This is just a phase. We're going to get through this. We got this. And that type of language, like, we got this, we're going through this together. We can handle this. This is a phase, like, kind of like talking each other through that situation, so that it doesn't become this like tense, awkward situation around sex. It's like you're both on the same page. You both get it. You're both calling it out. That's really, really helpful. So there's that, using that we language consistently during those harder times, and also learning from it. Like, okay, well, if we want to have another kid, we have a 2-year-old, what would we do differently for our intimacy? Like, for our sex life, however you want to word it. What are we proud of how we did, like, of what we did do, and what could we do a better job on this, like, when we have our next kid? So that's always good too, to kind of celebrate how you guys handle it well, and then also point out what you would want to do differently, so that the same stressors are not there, or are not as prevalent. So it is a real thing. It is a real thing where your energy is spent elsewhere, especially for mothers, having a child, like a baby, just all over them, like, physically grabbing at them, especially like grabbing at their boobs, and like a woman can be overstimulated with touch to the point where she's like, I cannot be touched. Like, just because it's, it is a different touch, but she's just like, she needs space, and I've come into that situation a lot, where my clients are like, I want to have sex with her, but she doesn't want to be touched right now. And we just had a baby. And I'm like, that makes so much sense. Like, she's always being tugged at and grabbed and held onto. And like, she gets to a point where she's like, all right, like need this alone time. So I think it's really good for men to understand that and know where she's coming from there, so that they can be, you guys can ask, how can I support you best during this time? Because I know you're getting a lot of touch from the baby. How can we improve our sex life without you feeling overwhelmed with touch? I think that's a really great question to ask your wife who just had a baby. And it's,
Yeah, I mean, for one thing that we noticed was that when she had the baby, and then all of a sudden her boobs were just huge and and producing milk. It's almost like you don't really care for them. Like, at least that happened to me as a man, because it's like, okay, that's my kid's source of food. I don't want to kind of play with it, you know. And also for her, it was like, that's my kid's source of food.
Don't play with it.
Don't play with it, right? It was just like, but it was like totally fine. Like, yeah, I'm fine. Like, yeah, I'll take the bottom half, you know. And we came to that arrangement for a while, and then like once he stops doing that, then it's almost like, okay, game's on. They're mine again, right? But you go through that stuff,
yeah.
and I don't know, and then at the end of the day, I think there's a healthy degree of just take care of yourself as a dude. At the end of the day, just go down to the living room when everybody's like chill, and then do what you got to do. Because there's I think it's a healthy balance, right? I mean, sexuality shouldn't necessarily always imply sex, 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 sex. I mean, you could also masturbate, and that's fine, right? It helps you sleep better. It helps you feel better. And if your wife is in the middle of the baby and stressed out and not sleeping, I mean, fuck, give her a break.
Yeah.
Do what you got to do. Don't be so selfish. Because that's the thing, is I feel probably, again, you tell me what you've seen, but I'm sure guys are a little selfish. Predominantly very selfish and very frontalized, right? They want that immediate. They need it. They want it. They get pissed. They're not getting enough. Like, they get in their heads, and then there's like all this pressure on the other partner, projecting all of that. But I think that's in a way a little bit selfish too. If you realize what your partner is going through, if you understand what their partner is going through, if you can have a conversation about what's happening, you could break through a lot of these things.
I think a lot of that is the lack of empathy, and not because men don't want to be empathetic in their relationships, but because, as I mentioned before, they're not asking the questions to hear the answers so they can be empathetic. So it's kind of like they don't know what's actually going on, and then they're frustrated that they're not having sex. And it's like, if you talk about it together and you really hear where she's at right now, then you would take pressure off yourself and off of her, and you would come together to find a solution, that works for you both at this moment, instead of being like frustrated in your head and resentful towards her. So I think that's where the selfishness comes in. It's this frustration of not knowing how to communicate and not knowing they should even communicate. So it's just, they assume everything should be working naturally and sex should just be happening. And that means I'm failing. So now I'm mad at her because she's a mirror showing me that I'm failing.
Going back to masturbation, I don't know, I have mixed feelings about masturbation, because as you said, like, so I've never been like, obviously we have a lot of stress, so, and we all cope with stress. So I've never been the person to cope with stress with, like, there's alcoholism is prevalent in our field, so that's never been the case. But I did find myself coping with stress with masturbation, and that it felt unhealthy to me. And then I started kind of like thinking about it and exploring, and I tried multiple times, and then achieved it once, semen retention. So not ejaculating, to just be able to control my animal instincts, but to be able to, my mind and my consciousness, to be able to control my subconscious desires. And I did it once where I got to a month. Getting to past 2 weeks is difficult as fuck. But once you get to past 2 weeks and you get to 3 weeks, you never want to orgasm again. It's addictive. You have so much energy. It's like you're being injected with Red Bull.
Back up.
Yeah.
You're just not having sex.
No. You're having sex. You just decide not to ejaculate, and then you can kind of train
Wait,
yourself.
you come all the way up to about to come, and then you don't come.
You can actually train yourself to kind of have an orgasm, but then kind of keep it inside you. It's weird. Try it.
I'll bring the sex therapist into this and
Yeah.
tell me if this is a thing.
Yeah. What do you think
Or if
about?
this is a thing, or this is or Lucas is.
Well, there's a lot of
No, semen retention
Yeah,
is a thing, and you are able to orgasm without ejaculating for sure.
It feels weird.
How do you do it?
I mean, that's not something I train men to do, so I don't know. I don't want to talk on specifics of that.
You basically just tense up your pelvic muscles, and then you imagine the orgasm going into your prostate and up your spine. And you know the craziest thing, when
you do that how many times?
I've tried it multiple. It's difficult to get past 2 weeks. Really difficult. Once you get, I've done one that where I got to a month.
Have you ever heard of blue balls?
Dude, I'm telling you.
Have you heard of blue balls?
Yeah, I've heard of blue balls.
Okay, well, don't you get that? Like, because
No,
that's very painful.
You don't get blue balls. You don't get blue balls. No. But the amount of energy, bro,
I feel
you
educated
have,
right now.
it's incredible. And I was like,
Is there a book? Is there exercise?
Yeah, there's
what do you
multiple books. There's some. I'll send you the book.
We'll put it in the link for all you guys right now wondering. I don't know if this sounds healthy for me.
But the orgasm
Keeping it
you have
inside?
after you release, I almost fell to the ground. It felt like so intense. I was like, after you release it, you're like, what the hell is that? Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, the first couple orgasms.
What if your
after
partner's
you come
like, give it to me? Like, I want to see it.
Yeah. So that was a part of the why I stopped. It was like my partner was like, you can't do this forever. And I was like, I want to do this forever. It feels so good.
yeah,
because I was like, I mean, I know that the partners are like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
blah blah blah
Yeah.
blah 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 blah. Like
Yeah.
that's like fun, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, the
Yeah.
all the work and make sure that there's some like, gush.
I was told you have to stop this.
We want to see the results of our hard work sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. But after that, I reestablished my relationship with porn too, and then I kind of realized, for me, porn's not healthy. I just know it. So for me, it's not. Like my sexual performance decreases,
Really?
my desire decreases. It's just not healthy. So by going through that, it made me realize that, which is interesting. Anyways, any comments on that?
I am very pro masturbation, but I am pro masturbation in the sense that like you go into it with an intention that works for you. Like there are a lot of guys who masturbate like 3 times a week and they use death grip, like they're squeezing, and then like they're squeezing it. They're actually like damaging nerve cells, which is causing problems like ED or delayed ejaculation. So the technique is off, right? Some guys go into masturbation always watching porn and knowing it's not good for them, and it's spiking their dopamine, so they're not getting that same dopamine spike with a partner, and that with that consistency they're not connecting with their partner, so that's not effective, right? Like some guys go into masturbation feeling shame, like, oh, masturbation's not good, I shouldn't be doing this, but I'm just really horny, so let me just do it. And it's that mindset of just like, this isn't good, but I'm doing it, which damages their identity. I'm not a man who does what I say I really want to do. So it's how you're looking at it, because masturbation as a physical act is actually very healthy for your body. So whatever psychology you're bringing into it and associating with it is what makes it a problem or not. And is it damaging your relationship? Like, are you masturbating more than you're having sex with your partner, and you're choosing that because of relational issues that you're choosing not to handle or address? Right. So there's so many ways where you can say masturbation is not effective, but it's based on the psychology of your associations that you're choosing to make. So it's like, all right, if we were to make it effective with the proper technique physically and the proper, psychological associations, then it actually benefits your sex life. It actually makes you feel more connected to your body. You learn a lot more about your body. You have better sense of control. You just have more of appreciation for yourself. You realize that you can handle situations like you guys mentioned, of like, if she's with a baby, you can you're more than happy to just masturbate, and there's no shame around that. You're taking care of yourself because you're letting her, take care of herself in that moment. So it's like, yeah, how are you going into it, and how are you making it work for you, not against you?
Do you know the effect of masturbation on dopamine levels? Because I've seen a lot of like, Huberman has a couple episodes on masturbation with pornography, and some studies that tell that dopamine levels decrease, and dopamine, is in charge of your drive and your energy. Do you know what the data is on dopamine and masturbation without pornography?
Yeah,
Does it have a similar drop in your dopamine levels?
it's not the same level of dopamine without porn. And this is why
Yeah.
whenever I talk about, it's really interesting because whenever I talk about masturbation, I have to clarify, like, I'm talking about masturbation without porn. Like,
Mm.
masturbation and porn are two different things, and a lot of
Yeah.
guys just combine them naturally. They're like, oh, well, if I'm masturbating, obviously porn's involved, but it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be, right? You've just been conditioned to believe that those go hand in hand. Um, so when I'm training men to fix issues they're dealing with, like premature ejaculation, I am telling them to never watch porn while they're doing the exercises that I'm giving them. I'm telling them, use your own mind, get in the habit of making a mind body connection that works for you, and not bringing that dopamine spike into the process, because we can't fully rely on that. Like, that's not in your control. That's external stimuli that you're not creating. So for you to feel in full control of your body and what you're able to do and retrain your body, that means you go full out on whatever you can control, which is your own mind, your own visualization. So yeah, I'm very, very intentional on, I'm not anti-porn, but when it comes to training, like retraining to masturbate in a healthy way, I'm usually like, let's remove it 95% of the time.
Is it because you just get addicted to the incredibly high need of neurotransmitters to actually ejaculate? And so then the simplicity of your partner then becomes less appealing. Is that a little bit of what happens? Like, you're like looking at all these things and kinks and orgies and yada yada, and then that's what kind of gets you going, and then you can come. And if you're doing that on a daily and a regular basis and multiple, you know, down a rabbit hole at Pornhub, that could be for like a long rabbit hole of shit. Then when you get to just having sex with your partner, then it feels stale, and then that can become an issue. Am I associating that in the wrong way, or is that sort of a little bit of what that means?
Yeah, no, that's what it means. Your brain and body
Okay.
adapt to needing a certain type of stimuli. And if that stimuli is like, oh, I got to look at this, and then I got to skip to all the good parts, right? A lot of guys will like skip to the end and then like go to the next one.
Oh, you always skip.
I know you do.
You always skip. Yeah, you got to scroll. Yeah.
I always have to tell my clients,
You always
don't
skip.
skip. Like,
Oh, no way. You got to skip. You got to skip.
you gotta not skip.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's a lot of it, is just like looking at only the heightened moments and getting used to needing that type of stimuli to get aroused at all. And then guys are like, oh my God, even to get the smallest hard on, like even to just start getting a hard on, I need something so intense in order to like feel that arousal. Like, they need an external stimuli that's like something crazy going on, like a porno.
And you think that you can recondition that?
Yes, 100%.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing, because you've trained
Definitely.
your body to do that with porn. So that means you could train your body to do it without porn.
Let's do a Life of Flow semen retention challenge.
Oh, no, we shall not. But you can all DM Lucas, and he's gonna run that
I'll
challenge.
create a support group.
Yeah, that's for sure. Listen, it's been a great hour. There's so much about this that needs to be unpacked. There's so many people that need that assistance. I commend you on offering that as a true support, as a service for fellow men. Just having this conversation, I think I've thought of a couple of things that I got to work on. So, but really, no, I think this is great. I think that by the way, you make it super comfortable. I can see why somebody can have this ongoing conversation with you and feel very, very safe.
Thank you. Yeah, I love this work, and I truly want to help guys because there's way too much shame that does not have to be there, you know? So it's like, oh man, let's just talk about it and fix it, and like have the belief that it is fixable. This is not something you have to struggle with and, you know, hold on to your entire life. There's no reason.
Well, thank you for caring about us men. Really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you for coming and sharing all your wisdom and your gifts, and we appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome,
And
guys.
for all of you guys out there interested, look at the notes. Her webpage is going to be there. Her details are going to be there. Her Insta handle are going to be there.
YouTube.
Reach out. YouTube, Insta, webpage. Reach out. Start fixing.
All right, vamos.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.